I have an echo-210. Cannot keep it running. Neighbors borrowed it last year, put crappy gas in. I could get it to run, but only idled when it was at full throttle. Only started when choke was off. Soon, instead of rebuilding, put a new carb in. Replaced all of the fuel and the fuel lines, the echo kit. Add a new spark plug in. New air filter. Air filter is soaked with gas. Running out of ideas.
Hello. So, you let someone borrow it. When you got it back, it didn't run right, so you replaced everything? Before you replaced everything, I would have said your carburetor needs cleaning and adjusting, or you have an air leak. Now, with your current setup, is your air filter soaked in fuel because of overpriming? If it's flooding, I want you to put choke completely off, do not prime, hold trigger to full throttle, and pull it over and over until it starts. If it won't start after many pulls, then something else is wrong. Also, before putting spark plug in, did you make sure it was the correct replacement and that there was a gap on the threaded end? Make sure there is a gap still. No gap means no spark and you're just exercising your arm trying to start the thing. Let me know once you've checked all that out.
Hi, the carb did need to be cleaned, but it was easier on my schedule to replace it. I can start it all day long with the choke off. Holding full throttle means idle speed even though I have the idle screw all the way in. Regarding the spark plug, we're good there. Put a new one in, the NGK came with the Echo kit, and it is the right one for my machine. Same number as the plug that came out, which has been there a while. I took the muffler out to check the spark arrestor screen. It was clean as a bell. There was some black oil dripping out of the muffler, but the screen was clear as a bell. And yes, the plug is gapped properly.
Sorry, we're having a communication breakdown. When you say I can start it all day long with the choke off. Holding full throttle means idle speed. I don't know what that means. Can you clarify? I'm assuming you're saying you can pull the rope all day long but it won't start no matter what you do? Or are you saying it is starting, but won't idle? Sorry, I'm a little confused. Did you ask your neighbor how it ran with them using it? Did you provide them with the proper fuel mixture? Or did they use their own? With the spark plug removed, and using a tight beamed flashlight, look down the cylinder and look for cylinder score markings. If the cylinder is scored, it's time to buy a new unit, as it's not cost effective to rebuild the short block. If there's no markings, then we're good. I would recheck everything you replaced one step at a time. Check that the fuel lines aren't crossed. Make sure the lines aren't clogged or pinched anywhere. Make sure when priming fuel is returning to the fuel tank. Also, check the gaskets between the carburetor and engine. Make sure portholes are aligned. I'm not sure if it's this model, but I know for a fact there is an update to the carb/gasket orientation that from OEM is one way, but after replacement needs to be flipped. Back that idle screw back out. Have you adjusted the high and low jets on the carb at all? If so, you'll need to return them to OEM, which is tighten clockwise all the way down, then back them out 1/4 turns each. Looking back at your original post. You said you could only make it idle at full throttle. Are you saying that the RPMs are over-exaggerated? Running too fast? You may have a leak in the cylinder by the back O-ring where the housing meets the body. Also, rock the cylinder, make sure the bolts aren't loose any. An air gap could increase RPMs drastically. If I'm going the wrong direction here, try to reply with clear detail so I may understand you better. I admit I'm not following you 100%.
Sorry for the confusion. Not sure that the neighbors did anything old fuel into it. This spring, it would not start. This engine has always started on the second pull regardless of how long it has been laid up. I finally got it to start by keeping the choke off. However, holding the throttle down all of the way only increased the speed a little above idle. I pulled the carb, took it apart, and it had a fair amount of varnish. Did not feel like rebuilding it. Ordered a new one. Installed. Put a new plug in, properly gapped. It is the right plug. I took off the exhaust and checked the spark arrestor screen. It was clean. I drained all of the fuel, put fresh fuel in, and replaced the fuel lines and vent with the Echo fuel line package and put a new air filter in it. I got it to start again after about 20 pulls. Again, did not use choke as it would not start with choke. Exact same symptoms are present from before I put the new carb. I did reset the carb, it was fine the way it came, it hence set high to full counterclockwise. Low in the middle. I also checked the spark, and it is sparking. I am reusing the old gasket between the carb and the manifold. Gasket is in good shape. Might try that, air leak. Hope this better helps. Follow up to above. I removed the caps off of the red and white screws. They were much farther out. I put them both at 1 1/4 turn. Result was engine ran a little smoother, did not have any high RPMs, but I could lower the idle speed. The bulb would go dry after about a minute or so. I filled the tank full. I removed the gasket between the carb and the manifold, used RTV on both sides and reassembled. Engine seems to want to go higher on RPMs. Are you sure both screws are 1/114?
Okay. Well, you'll definitely need to reset the jets back to OEM. The high jet should never be that open. There are bigger problems if that's the case. And you changed the fuel and lines before priming into the new carb, right? Otherwise, the old fuel is already in the new carb. I'm assuming air leak or scored cylinder due to lean mixture. So a compression or air/fuel issue. You can test this with a compression tester and/or vacuum test. Try this video, work through it and apply it to your unit. On a general level he's correct.
So off to Harbor Freight tomorrow to see if I can find an adapter that will work.
The 1 1/4 for each jet is a very good starting point. Once you get the engine operating, once it's up to operating temperature, you can pull the throttle full, and adjust the high jet until it sounds really whiny. Then back it off a bit, otherwise it'll be set too lean. Then the same for the low jet. As it's idling, you'll want your idle screw all the way out, and adjust the low jet until your head stops turning, meaning RPMs are low enough that the clutch isn't grabbing the drive shaft. At that point, adjust your idle screw to prevent too low of an engine RPM at idle.
Yeah, I'm looking for my compression tester. Stand by. What is the compression for this engine? Do I just pull once after I have warmed up the engine?
I'd say no lower than 125 pounds per square inch. The motor does not need to be warmed up for compression test. Just insert the tester, pull full throttle, and pull the rope until the needle on the tester stops moving, and that's your reading. Let me know what it reads. The motor only needs to be warmed up for adjusting carburetor jets.
Well, my compression tester fitting, when screwed in, all of the say hits the cylinder head, thus it cannot complete the stroke. I took it out, wrapped it in Teflon tape, screwed it in as far as it would go without hitting the head, only got 90 psi, but I do not have confidence in the rating. So off to Harbor Freight tomorrow to see if I can find an adapter that will work. Looking at the spark plug, it was wet, a little black. Unfortunately, that points to a bad cylinder. This sucks.
Well, I commend you on the effort. I probably would have tried the same. And hey, now you have a valid reason to go tool shopping. Let me know your results tomorrow.
Okay, so we have opened Pandora's box. I went and bought another compression test, but the hose was much longer. As a result, the little Echo engine could not produce enough volume to get any reading, even though it was a good fit. At least this is my theory. I took my original set and this time used liquid tape, and after pulling 500 times I got it to 100. I then returned the first set, and got another set. The hoses were shorter. This time I got 60 psi. I could switch the gauges themselves around just to validate they were calibrated correctly, and with the different hoses, they were. Suggestions without buying a snap-on.
I'm afraid that the unit just has a compression problem. As far as a tester without breaking the bank, there are plenty that you can order online. Just search for small engine compression tester and choose whichever makes sense to you. I use a blue point tester, and the hoses are about 12 inches long, comes in 3 different sizes in the kit. I can't remember what I paid for it, as I had a Snap-on truck account years ago. So what are your thoughts? Can we agree that the cylinder is either scored or the engine has a leak somewhere? Or do you still need to test it before going further? It looks like a replacement short block is around $125, which usually justifies just purchasing a new unit altogether, but it's absolutely your call. Stew on it a bit, then let me know your thoughts. You have my support either way.
Thanks for your help. So I guess it's not worth it, pretty expensive replacement. Well, just for giggles, I do have a small engine tester coming tomorrow. I like to beat a dead horse, I guess.
There's nothing wrong with that. You definitely want to be sure. If in fact the 2 testers you were using weren't sealing properly, then there's still hope? Maybe? We won't know until the horse is dead, right? Let me know your findings regardless, and if there's anything else, don't hesitate to ask.
I had a brain fart. I have a SRM 2100 trimmer, don't use it anymore. Thought I could maybe switch the heads. Problem: low compression. Is there a pattern here with Echo? Is Mantis going to be better? Switch to still. Please let me know if you got your tip, it was giving me a hard time. Gave you 5 stars. You were great. My wife never gave me 5 stars for anything.
Haha, as far as what manufacturer to go with, I don't know how to answer that. Really depends on your budget and needs. It's a personal preference, really. I enjoy Stihl products. I also enjoy Troy-Bilt or Craftsman. But I don't use them regularly, so I don't mind having a cheap 2-stroke. The biggest thing is keeping up with maintenance, proper lubrication and carb air/mix settings, and removing fuel every time and refilling with fresh mix is essential to long lifespan. These little blocks run at high RPMs, so they can destroy themselves quickly if allowed to. As far as your rating for me, I really appreciate that. As far as the tip option malfunctioning, I honestly don't know if it went through or not. I'm on my cell and the site is buggy, so I'll have to wait until tonight to check on a PC. But thank you either way.
Frank, got a new tester for small engines. You ready for this? 150 psi. Did it more than once? Okay, I have no clue. Next test.
You're kidding? Haha, well, okay. Only test left is a vacuum test. What's the exact model number for this unit? I need to do some digging, I think.
echo-210. I looked around for a compression spec for the Echo. It seems to run around 125 to 130. I'm getting 150. Can that be right? I was getting 90 on my old set, but people say that it will still run at 90. It has a new carb, and it is pulling the fuel fine. If I disconnect the incoming line, it pours out at a very fast rate. I did order a new gasket for the carb against the manifold, though I would be surprised if it did fix it. How do we get this ticket turned back on? The system keeps trying to charge me again.
If you have a home improvement or appliance question and want to chat with an expert now, visit justanswer.com/ythi.